Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers is a weekly program designed to answer all your questions, including the ones you didn't even know you had, and to clarify the endless debates around the wonderful and fascinating world of sexuality. Join us for real talk about sex from two experts in the field. Richard and Larry Siegel have over 50 years of experience as sex therapists, educators, counselors, and researchers. The Siegel Brothers are recognized around the world as trainers of medical and mental health professionals.
Hello and welcome to Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. I'm Dr. Richard Siegel, a certified sex therapist.
And I'm Larry Siegel, a clinical sexologist and certified sexuality educator.
And my super awesome big brother.
And it's still my favorite role.
Welcome back. And welcome to you, and thank you for joining us on Sex Talk. Let us toast.
Indeed.
Our ritual sake toast. Today we're drinking the strange blackberry milky sake.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers to you all.
Yum.
Mm-hmm. So an unfiltered with a little blackberry wine in
got
there.
A little kick.
Yes.
So,
Okay, here we are. Another week.
we are. And
Another
it's
week
Hanukkah.
to talk about sex, and it is the first night of Hanukkah. Yes, so happy Hanukkah to all of you out there who celebrate, and happy Hanukkah even if you don't celebrate. Right? That's okay too.
Sure.
An interesting kind of, well, people call it a holiday.
Yeah,
But it's not a holiday.
A lot of Gentiles think it's like a Jewish Christmas or something. It's
Right.
not nearly as high holy day.
No.
It's a commemorative thing,
Right,
right?
exactly.
And as usual, commemorating some battle victory or something, right? And
Right.
The miracle of the lights.
Although I think in this case, we're going to be honest, we're really just celebrating the miscalculation.
I think so.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
They thought they had 1 day's worth of oil. They ended up having 8 days worth of oil. I think somebody just counted wrong. I mean, that's really all it is. You
How
want
much
to call
oil
it a
do we
miracle?
have?
Okay, call it a miracle.
It looks like about one night to me.
So, yeah, I mean, you think it's 1 night? You got 1 night? Okay, but it lasted 8 nights. It's a miracle.
What am I, an oil man?
And to this we celebrate, and we eat really fried, greasy food.
Heavy fried potatoes.
So
That's
to celebrating mathematical mistakes.
Happy Hanukkah.
Yes, indeed. And for anybody who really takes us seriously, we're not making fun of, we're having fun with. So we
There
mean
you
no offense.
Yes.
Okay. So what do we have lined up for this week?
Very excited that we have a returning guest.
Indeed.
Right, we have part 2 with Dr. Steve Snyder tonight. As usual, we've been talking a lot about men and male sexual problems.
Yeah.
There's not really that many penis problems, and right, either guys finish too quickly, they lose their erection before they finish, or they take too long.
Well,
right?
yeah, I mean, that's
And
pretty much it. They're all around the penis.
All penis problems come down to anxiety for the most part,
Right.
or just being too much in this head and not being in that immersive sexual experience. I love
Right.
when we had Dr. Snyder on last month, and he was talking about how when we have sex, we should be like narcissistic 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
Just want to eat ice cream and have all the adults go, "Yay!"
Yeah,
he's
and
on the
I-
money. He's really.
Well, but that's something I think that I want to explore a little bit more. I definitely want to delve a little bit deeper into this idea, because I think we've all been so programmed into this idea of giving to our partner,
Yes.
and he's basically
Right.
saying, "No, you're not it's about giving." Again, like you
Easy
said, like
take.
that 3-year-old,
Take.
selfish, take.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested in pursuing that a little bit further with him.
Yeah,
this week.
and we'll talk about these common male sexual problems, things that often show up in sex therapists' office,
Yes,
right?
right. And
I just want to throw this out because I heard this from our friend in L.A., Chris Donahue, and I thought it deserved
I haven't seen Chris in a long time.
deserved repetition. Instead of going right to erectile dysfunction and guys just kind of internalizing that my dick is broke and I have this
Right.
this illness.
Becomes an identity.
Yeah, he used the phrase erectile disappointment,
Oh,
which I thought
nice. I like
really
that.
helpful. Really,
like that.
really nice frame shift.
You know, that really is. And what I like about that is that it does, just that term alone can be a shift for so many guys away from performance and focus more on expectation.
Yeah, and like Steve was talking about in our first interview, lazy sex or non necessarily mutual sex. It's right all better than the all or nothing that so many people get fixed on. That this is what sex is supposed to be, and if it's not, I'm disappointed and angry.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, we got a lot to learn.
Indeed.
Still,
Indeed.
like you always say, we're not going to work ourselves out of a job anytime soon.
No, unfortunately.
No.
Unfortunately. So, you know what? I think without any further ado, why don't we go ahead and go to our interview with Dr. Steve Snyder.
And we are back and very happy to be rejoined by our guest from last month, Dr. Steven Snyder from Manhattan, New York City. New York. City so nice, they named it twice. How are you, Doc?
I'm tolerably well.
Good.
This worked out.
Yeah. I'm glad you can come back. Really good to see you again. Must be cold up there.
I haven't been outside in a while, so I think it probably is. But you know, we never go out.
Well, it's too cold down here in Florida, so it must be frozen tundra up there.
Yeah, we're equipped for it.
Good. So
Yes.
we're glad to have you back, and we should just jump right in because you know, as we gushed the first time, we're just really happy to have the opportunity to have your expertise and rare position as a psychiatrist and sex therapist. So when we left off in November, I just was really curious about this phenomenon. I heard about and then started to see in my practice the so-called sexual narcissist, which is always fascinating because you know, most people feel like they could identify a narcissist. Usually they think of, you know, the blowhard, conceited person incapable of giving a crap about anybody but themselves, or the super inferior, you know, the one so self-obsessed that everybody in the room is looking at them. But these are guys that do not show any sign of narcissistic personality disorder until they get an erection. Then you see all the classic highlights, right? Overinflated sense of their sexual prowess and their ego, sense of entitlement to sex, complete lack of empathy for their partner's pleasure or pain. Just, you know, they just turn into assholes.
Yeah.
I just, because I've seen a handful of these guys and had a real hard time, you know, sitting on my countertransference, I would just love to know what you think.
Well, you know, in general, the thing to do about guys or women too who have narcissistic problems is to stay away from them if you can. So if it's somebody who's dating,
dependent types tend to gravitate to them, right?
What do you say?
I was gonna say.
Dependent types tend to gravitate toward them.
Sometimes you just simply don't know, and you get kind of surprised. And so, in general, you want to stay away from them. And the big question in my mind when I'm talking to, say, a single person who may be dating somebody like this is this somebody who's got a real hardcore narcissistic personality disorder, or are they just an individual who's got some narcissistic problems? And somebody with some narcissistic problems can sometimes be workable. So I recommend a trick I learned from Dr. Craig Malkin, a psychologist in Boston, who wrote a book called something about narcissism, understanding narcissism or something. And he said, use what's called the empathy prompt. You turn to the person and you say, you know, you're making me feel uncomfortable. I'm feeling uncomfortable now because I feel like you're not really listening to what's going on with me. And if the person's got a dyed-in-the-wool narcissistic problem, what they'll say is, why do you have to be so sensitive?
Right.
And if they've just got some narcissistic issues, they'll go, oh, you're kidding. You know, I had no idea. So that's what I use as to figure out whether you want to be with this person or just, you know, be 100 miles away. I guess the dilemma comes when when you're married to somebody like that or have a couple of kids with them, and then it becomes a little more difficult. I don't think anybody's got the magic for that. Sometimes if the person really is a Jekyll and a Hyde, where they only become narcissistic when they get a hard on, then you could talk to them when they're Jekyll and they say, are you aware of what happens when you're Hyde?
Yeah.
Have you had any luck with that?
I don't recall going there. And it's interesting too, because I use the Jekyll and Hyde parable a great deal, mostly just to point out the volitional quality that if he doesn't drink the potion, he doesn't turn into Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
he hates it and regrets it after.
yeah. And obviously there are people who become Hyde when they get drunk. And there are people who get, I guess, Hyde when they get sexually excited.
Hmm.
So yeah, I wish I had a magic for that otherwise.
Well, let me ask you this, just as a conceptual thing, because again, in people that maybe not understand, I think a lot of professionals don't really understand narcissism as well as we'd sometimes like to think. But I think for the average person, because like you said, how do you avoid that? And how many people find out too late that they're already married to a narcissist? Is it possible for people, even with a narcissistic personality disorder, to sort of keep it at bay when it suits them? In other words, I mean, narcissists are manipulative.
Charming.
Could this be part of their manipulation?
I think so, but if you're going to be with somebody and dating somebody and being engaged with somebody and all the conflicts that involves in order to get to the altar with somebody, I think you're going to experience their narcissism. And when I talk to people who have ended up in relationships with these people, they go, "Yeah, I sort of saw the signs. I saw the signs." But I figured maybe they were just under stress. I mean, so that's the thing about people with severe personality disorders is nobody really fully grasps how different they are inside. They assume that they're just like you and me, but they're not. I mean, that's the classic teaching about sociopaths. We assume they have guilt somewhere, but they really don't.
Right.
They don't.
Right. This is their normal.
So sometimes, sometimes a lot of times people will see these signs and they just will, not quite be able to imagine that this person really is as disturbed as they are,
Right.
because they assume that this person is kind of similar to them really and has the same issues that but no, they actually really don't. They're really very different.
And I think, as you just implied, for all the true disorders, there's probably even more people that have just the features, or kind of don't meet the criteria for a true personality disorder, but they're like that.
Well, they're like that, or sometimes they're more workable because they can see it in themselves.
That's
yeah.
But also it's the personality disorder, not the narcissism, because I loved what we talked about in November, that healthy narcissism, that natural, uninhibited, that 3-year-old bit where we kind of should be sexually.
Well, I'm always saying I speak to most men these days who are in their 20s and 30s, and they don't have enough sexual narcissism. They don't have enough feeling of entitlement. They're constantly asking permission, and is this okay? And what would make you feel good? And then the women are coming into my office and going, "Oh my God, this is so boring. I just want somebody to just do me."
Right.
Wow. This seems like a kind of an age-old conundrum. I remember.
There's the famous quote from Esther Perel. She says, most of us will fantasize at night about things that we protest against during the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I think most heterosexual women that I talk to do have a bit of a divide inside them where they want to be respected and they want people to be considerate and kind. And at the same time, once in a while, they want the guy to just make decisions and tell them what to do, so that they can just surrender to them. And they want both of these things, and both of them are sincere wishes. And I think most healthy, happy, heterosexual couples, they achieve some kind of a balance between this kind of primal caveman thing and the more evolved kind of behaviors that we've all learned to do in the 21st century.
Yeah. And we also touched a little bit about desire. I loved what you said about inspiration versus desire.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
since you brought up Esther, there's another question she often asks that I hate. I talk about it in supervision a lot. That question, how could you desire what you already have?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a killer thing.
You mean you don't like the question?
Yeah. Oh, I love her. I don't like the question.
I think it's an idea of desire that it has to do with the sexual child, which just wants things that it doesn't have. It's like a kid. They won't want the toys that they have. They want new toys.
Yeah.
And so it's an idea of desire that perhaps could be cultivated by adventure or mystery or the exotic. I don't resonate very much to it as an idea. I think part of the reason is because I'm a man. I think we men are a little less easily bored. You know, same kind of meal, same woman, making love, watch the ball game afterwards, we're good. Whereas the average woman is far more prone to boredom. She needs to go out, she needs to see new things, she needs to have experiences, she needs to travel. If you're in a hotel, she needs a view. It's different, it's a different head. And I think one of the reasons that so many women have resonated to Esther is she does express that sense of restlessness that so many women feel. I don't think that many guys really feel that restlessness. You know, people are always talking about what do women want. Okay, nobody ever talks about what guys want. Everybody knows what guys want. They want a good partner who's hot that they can have sex with and a nice meal and watch the ball game and go to sleep. That's it.
Quiet.
And they could do that over and over again. Most women would go berserk. Most women need a lot more variety and a lot more interest. You know, I can wear the same suit to every wedding I go to for the next 20 years and I would never care.
Right.
My wife needs a new dress. It's ridiculous. I don't understand it. But I talked to my daughter when she was 17. I said, why do you need new clothes? How about the old clothes? She goes, Dad, you just don't understand. Women are different. They just need things that are interesting and different. And they go into stores and they feeling things and just looking at them and they just like the shopping and the seeing all the new things. And I have no interest in that. And I think there is a gender difference there. I think that's why Esther tends to appeal to a lot of women because she expresses that restlessness and that feeling of boredom and it's the same thing and I can't stand it. I don't think that many men really experience that.
Well,
But what about that trope? It's an old trope
the
about men
70s.
sexually wanting the variety. Maybe
I think
the
a lot of
consistency
guys-
everywhere else.
I think that in the 21st century, it's become a little more clear as some of that patriarchal entitlement stuff has kind of drifted away a little bit for most people, that women are really more prone to boredom in sexual relationships. They just have tended to put up with it.
But guys like to fantasize about, to put it crudely, some strange.
Some strange or a threesome or whatever, you know, guys get bored too. But my guess is that guys aren't as vulnerable. You know, they talk about it in the zoo. The most dangerous animals are the most intelligent ones because they get bored. So the elephants get bored. The chimpanzees get bored because they're intelligent. The horses don't get bored. They're just chomping the grass. I think most guys are a little bit more like horses.
Yeah. We do. It's a favorite theme of ours to talk boy brain, girl brain.
Yeah.
And
I think it's a huge thing. It doesn't get talked enough. As you know, it's become a little bit politically dangerous to talk about boy brain, girl brain. But I think it's just so much right there that I think that heterosexual relationships don't get talked about enough, but they're the most difficult because the people truly don't understand each other.
No, that absolutely.
right.
And way more than that old John Gray nonsense.
Oh, I was just going to say I was never a fan of that crap.
I love John Gray. He was right on the money. And the reason he's right on the money is he sold like 20 million copies. You don't sell 20 million copies unless you're right on the money.
But I don't like the different species from different planets destined to never understand each other. I think
Right.
I think it's totally accurate.
Different
Totally
styles,
accurate.
yes. Different communications, yes.
we're like 99% the same. But where we're different between our legs and between our ears is some pretty significant stuff.
I might quarrel with you there. I think John Gray was right on the money. I think he was just politically unpopular. People don't like to hear about it, but it's totally different planet.
Well, I mean, I would agree with you. I mean, I would say, but the title, going past the title, I think the rest of it was just bubblegum.
Oh no, I thought he was some good stuff in there. But anyhow, we could disagree about
Maybe I'll reread it at this point.
Well,
Yeah, it's been a
It's
while.
been a while.
Yeah.
that. Yeah, we'll move on.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do we talk about next?
Yeah, we also were wrapping up part one with an interesting discussion about how healthier it is for relationships to not separate if one is in the mood and the other is not. And that difficult
Absolutely.
task of, can I just lie next to you and please myself, and you can just lay there and read your book.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because so many couples have these desire disparities. And I go, what do you mean desire disparity? One person wants to have sex, the other doesn't. You can figure it out. So one person lies on their back and gives himself an orgasm, and the other person just sidles up next to them and just maybe rubs their chest for a little bit, and everybody's fine. And there's no reason it has to be mutual. It's just the idea that it has to be mutual that gets people messed up. I always tell couples, look, you got a decision. The guy's going to want an orgasm, and he has a choice. He can either do it in bed with you, where it's warm and comfortable and he can inhale your scent, or he can go in the bathroom where it's cold and turn on some porn on his phone. I mean, which of these is preferable? You know, it's clear.
A great question. I gotta cop that from you.
Yeah.
That's a great.
You're welcome to it.
Yeah. But I think that's so important, because it's almost like, I think two of the most destructive ideas when it comes to relationships are the one that you just said, everything has to be mutual, and the other one, that you should never ever do anything you don't want to do with your partner. If you're not in the mood and they want and they're pressuring you, then that's coercion. But sometimes we have to give a little bit more than we want to our partner to make the relationship work.
Oh, interesting. I would disagree with you there. I like the idea that you should never do anything you don't want to do with your partner. I would say if they want something and you don't want it, find something else. Find something else that you do want to do. I had a conversation with a patient today who doesn't like the idea of her husband's penis in her mouth. And for him, this is like the quintessence of joy in life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, well, you know, okay, cool. I don't think you should give him any blowjobs because you don't like to do it, because it's going to cause damage if you do things that you don't want to do. So let's think, what would you want to do? How about if you had the tip of his penis in your mouth? And she goes, oh, that's okay, as long as I don't feel like I'm choking on it or anything like that. And so were you giving him a hand job and had the tip of his penis in your mouth? She goes, oh, that's fine. I have no problem doing that.
Okay.
So, you know, you're getting granular about what the person really likes and doesn't like and wants and doesn't want. And there's always a solution. There's always a solution, because people are never going to be 100% compatible. But I guess where we might differ, and this may be just a question of personal or professional philosophy, is I think it is damaging if you're doing things that you don't like to do in bed with your partner just because you want to be generous.
I think there's a distinction, though, between something one doesn't like and something one doesn't particularly love but doesn't mind and wants to be.
Oh, absolutely.
You just illustrated the point that I didn't make very well.
Yeah,
that's what I mean by giving in a little bit, compromise, find a way to.
Right. Dan Savage gave us the GGG, right? To be good, giving, and game. And I think that, right, it's not something you asking to do something you don't like.
Right.
Then that, I know it's not your favorite, but you don't mind.
As long as you're getting something from it. See, I really seriously feel that everybody should be getting something from it.
Mm-hmm.
That it shouldn't be, I'm just trying to think. I have a couple of couples that I work with where the guy's favorite thing in the world is cunnilingus. He just gets disappointed when he's farther away from the vagina when they have to have intercourse. He just likes to be right down there with it.
Yeah.
And his wife doesn't do much for her. She thinks it's fine. She goes along with it, but it's mostly for him. So that's an example where it's fine. It's certainly not turning her off. It's just not taking her anywhere totally special. She's just waiting for him to get it inside her, because that's where she lives.
And what she gets out of that is his pleasure, his satisfaction. In this case, ultimately brings her more pleasure with
I don't think so.
that she likes.
I don't think so. I don't think she's getting his pleasure and his satisfaction. I guess I'm not so big on the generosity thing, because I think it misleads people. I don't like the good giving in game. I don't like the giving part. I don't think you should be giving.
Last month.
I think you should be taking. So what she's taking at that point, maybe she's enjoying the attention, or maybe she's not taking very much at that point. But at least it's not anything wrong with it. She just thinks that, it's perfectly okay. But I don't like the idea that she's giving it to him because this is such a wonderful experience for him. To me, that's just not passionate. It's not erotic. And maybe I'm just too much of a purist that way, but it's my own personal point of view.
Oh, it's a good point. Good point.
So they're probably, as we always say, there's a patient to fit every theory. And so there are lots of people, it's like we were talking about with Esther, there are some people who really are novelty oriented. And for those people, the things that she's talking about will really resonate. And there are other people who are just not very novelty oriented. And there's some people for whom giving really works in bed. I just don't think it works very well. But maybe that's just me and the selected people who happen to come into my office. But there's a lot of other people like Dan Savage for whom it's working fabulously.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think, sex and certainly eroticism, I think, is contextual. So it's, whatever those dynamics are. And again, like you said, I mean, part of our job is to figure out what's going to work with that person or
Yeah.
in that relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
You mentioned you also wanted to talk about delayed ejaculation.
Yeah,
Mhm,
while we
mhm.
have you, that's probably one of the tougher things that I and most of the therapists I supervise find to address.
And if
Yeah,
I could
because
say also before we start, something that we have been sort of warning about for many, many years,
what
because
is,
we saw this trend probably 25 years ago,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
especially in younger guys, how there was this movement
The-
from like the biggest fear of rapid, or it's still often called premature ejaculation, and the attempt to medicate that has been just leading guys right into both erectile dysfunction and delayed ejaculation.
See,
I would
you
question that. I see lots of guys with
alcohol.
prematurity, and I medicate it all the time, and it doesn't lead to delayed ejaculation.
No, but when guys
Yeah.
do it themselves,
Yeah.
the classic
Yeah.
used to be
It's like
alcohol,
drinking.
right, for staying
Primarily
power.
drinking. Yeah.
Right?
But
Right.
nowadays it's opiates.
Yeah.
And we're
But
seeing-
certainly opiates, I've seen guys get in trouble. I've seen guys get addicted to opiates from trying to treat premature
yeah,
ejaculation.
Sure,
me too.
sure.
Young guys.
Right.
They've been in treatment 4 or 5 times and
Mhm.
nobody's ever bothered to ask them about sex.
Right. But just seeing these problems in younger and younger guys for a long
Guys who have
time.
difficulty ejaculating.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see probably more guys with that issue than anybody in the world. Because on the internet, because I've written about it, if you Google difficulty ejaculating, inability to ejaculate, you get me. So I get calls from all over the world from guys with this problem. And for most of them, it's actually not that difficult a problem to treat, I find. Maybe I'm seeing different people. To me, the person who conceptually blew this wide open and revealed the secret was Bernie Apfelbaum in Berkeley back in the 60s. And he would talk about guys who would get erect, but they weren't really that excited.
Mm.
And the reason, as I talk about in my book, is that it doesn't take that much arousal to get erect.
Mhm.
On a scale of 0 to 100, maybe it takes a 20. It's like getting the car out of the driveway. But to really be able to, let's say your ejaculation threshold, which is innate, you're just born with it, is like a 70.
Mm.
If you penetrate at a 20, the nature of the male arousal system is it doesn't hold a charge very well. It's like a tennis ball. It comes across the net with a lot of power. That's the first 5 minutes of intercourse. And then the next 5 minutes is one bounce. That's okay. You can ejaculate. But the time you've been 15 or 20 minutes, it's rolling towards the backstop. You just can't get that thing back over there. So unlike the female system, the male system tends to kind of habituate, and it's just not that exciting anymore for a guy. So the key, here's how I tell guys to do it. You say, okay, I have a high threshold. I have a threshold of 70. And I know I have a threshold of 70 because I'm a guy who can have wild sex and not get close to ejaculation. I just need a lot of stimulation. So the mistake is to get hard. You're at a 20, you go in, and now you're going to get from a 20 to a 70. That's not going to happen. Or it's going to take so long that you're going to be tired. And you're going to be like the ball rolling toward the backstop. The secret is to get to a 60 before you penetrate. And so you really tune into how aroused you are, and whatever you need to do to get as excited as possible, you do that. And then once you penetrate by pre-established agreement with your partner, so you're not taking them by surprise, the rule is no Mr. Nice Guy.
Mm.
No trying to give her lots of orgasms, because by then you're not going to be able to come. No trying to be the world's greatest lover. You have only one mission, which is whatever is going to excite you to get from a 60 to a 70. Whether that's friction, fantasy. Sometimes guys, their tip is sensitive, but the shaft is not as sensitive. So if it's buried deep inside her, they're not going to get that sensitivity. Shallow penetration, or shallow, deep, something like that. Like a drum solo, snare, tom-tom, snare, tom-tom. And just something that gives you the stimulation, and you get maximum muscles involved. So you're driving with your glutes and your thighs and curling your toes. And you're really just driving yourself and fantasizing about the entire cast of the Rockettes in bed, whatever it is, and to get yourself to a 70. And you want to do that within 10 minutes. And if a guy learns to do that, you could really treat a lot of guys that way. I mean, at least half guys with with delayed ejaculation. And is that a method that is commonly used down in Florida, or?
Not that
Not
I've-
really,
No, I'm
right?
not. That sounds novel to me,
Right.
and I like it
Okay.
very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all comes from Bernie Applebaum. But I see some guys who with delayed ejaculation. Sometimes you could treat them in 10 minutes with recommending this kind of thing. The other thing is, Michael Perlman emphasized for years that guys with have high ejaculation thresholds will often masturbate in a vigorous way
in
in order to compensate for that. So I usually recommend that guys get a fleshlight.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you get a fleshlight. It's a hard outer case, so it's wet like a vagina. It can't really grip like a vagina can't really grip. And most importantly, your hands and fingers are not on your penis.
Right.
So when you're in a vagina, it doesn't feel strange because you're used to masturbating without your hands and fingers on your penis. And I've had a number of guys that couldn't afford to see me. I just say, get a fleshlight. And very often they call me back and say, yeah, it really worked.
Mhm.
So between those two, you can put Michael Perlman and Bernie Applebaum together, you can take care of a lot of guys with delayed ejaculation. And then the other thing is acceptance, because it's such a tremendous double standard. A woman needs 20 minutes with her vibrator to orgasm. Nobody's going to expect her to come during intercourse. They're going to have intercourse, and then she's going to spend 20 minutes with her vibrator, and everybody's cool about that. The male equivalent, the guy who's got an ejaculation threshold of 90, who needs really, really intense hand stimulation right at the point where he needs it in order to ejaculate, the most merciful thing for this guy is to have 10 minutes of intercourse, and then he pulls out and he gives himself an orgasm, just like the woman with her vibrator. And yet that's not so socially acceptable, which I think is an unfortunate thing.
But what's ironic about that is that's exactly how every guy does it in every porn scene that all these guys are watching.
And that's why they're selected to be in porn, because they have an ejaculation threshold of 90. So they could be with the hottest woman in the world and they can go for a half an hour.
No, but they have to do it outside.
They have to do it.
That's the money, right?
Right?
Exactly.
You have to see it. Nobody wants
They have to have their finger, because they know exactly where on the finger they're going to get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, would you, given what you said, if a guy, let's say, can't afford a fleshlight,
Yeah.
could it also be as simple as just masturbate with his other hand?
mix it up.
Yeah, a mild case, but you still got the hand. Yeah, I mean, it's a classic technique. I'm glad you brought that up. So a mild case, you can do that, but I think a serious case, and a fleshlight is only $70. So I guess the guy's really destitute. Most guys can afford a fleshlight. I guess you could funky and you could kind of wash them carefully and share them, but that wouldn't work. Yeah.
I wouldn't go there with that.
Why don't you edit that out? Yeah.
Well, given that that a couple of weeks ago we did a news story on some company that was busted selling, washing and selling used condoms.
Wow, unbelievable.
Busted a stash of like
hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, almost
That's strange, because it would seem to be more cost effective to make a condom than to get and to wash it. That sounds
and
crazy.
then re-roll it and
That sounds very expensive.
yeah.
Actually, I have to stop in just a minute, and I really apologize. Is that good?
That's
no worries.
Perfect
No
timing.
worries. Yeah.
We're really grateful to have the chance to talk.
All right.
Indeed.
Well, look forward to talking to you and to keep the conversation going. And I'm glad we could entertain such a diversity of opinions tonight about so many things. So that's
Yeah, absolutely.
all right.
Absolutely.
And Ricky, I've never met your brother before, so it's been nice this fall to actually meet you for the first time. So it's
Yeah,
been-
same here.
all right, excellent.
I know.
Thank you so much. Really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Don.
Really.
Real.
Thank you.
I do love doing this. It's
It's the opportunity to talk to these real giants in the field. I know he's too modest, but he's a pioneer. He's been
he's
one of those
he's definitely
guys
up there.
in New York. Michael Perlman, Dan Water, so many of the biggies that I go to conferences to hear, and the fact that we can just chat up
Exactly.
on a Zoom call is a real gift.
Indeed, and and I love the fact that we can kind of have these different perspectives on some of these things.
Yeah. I'm
Excuse
a
me.
little intimidated disagreeing with someone the likes of him.
It must be my personality flaw because I love it. I love the challenge of being
I know
able to
you
bring
do.
stuff up and try to, massage these different perspectives.
Yeah.
And again, we don't have to agree, but I think it's really, there's plenty of room
I like
for
how you said-
different
I like how you
perspectives.
said there's a patient for every theory.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is
Absolutely.
for sure the truth.
Yes, indeed. And drink to that as well.
Thank you, Dr. Snyder.
Indeed. Definitely look forward to having some more conversations with you.
Yeah, please be a regular. That's maybe every other month or something like that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yes.
So, hope it was good for you all as well. Hope it was a meaningful conversation. All right. Should we not care if people got anything out of it? Should we be selfish?
Yeah.
Okay.
We appreciate you listening
Indeed.
and watching and subscribing to our YouTube channel if you would please, and
Yes.
liking our Facebook page and sharing with all your friends, because we don't have enough sex talk in this country, folks.
Indeed.
There's nothing more universal, nothing that every one of us has in common, and yet that's
right.
the thing that's most difficult to talk about. It's
really
silly.
kind of
We
ironic.
should all grow up a little
Yeah.
bit and have more common sense discussions about sex. So,
Cheers to that.
to more sex talk.
Indeed.
Join us next Friday and every Friday at 7 East Coast time for more sex talk with the Siegel Brothers.
Stay well.
Thanks for watching Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. Join us each week on Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can also follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay on top of the latest developments in the ever-changing world of sex and sexuality.